Welcome to another edition of George Washington Speaks. I'm Tom Saffold. How did Washington make up for his lack of formal education? He definitely had some help, and he will describe some of it to you in this edition. The steps he took are also available for any young person today who wants to broaden opportunities beyond those that are obvious. Here's George Washington, portrayed by Vern Frykholm.
After my few years of schooling, I worked hard to add to my education by reading as many books as I could. I also tried to spend time with men who were smart and successful and who I wanted to be like. I was shy, but when I got up the courage, I would ask questions of them about how they became successful. And they were eager to share their thoughts, and I learned a lot from them. I strongly hoped they might offer to lend a book to me, which I would gladly have accepted and read several times. But if they did not offer, I sometimes became bold enough to ask them to recommend a book. And then I would ask them if I could borrow it. Now, that took a lot of courage because books were scarce, expensive, and were treasured. At age 67, I now have a library of over 900 books and pamphlets, and they are part of my will, which my nephew Bushrod Washington will inherit. They include books and articles on agriculture, the military, history, politics, philosophy, religion, travel, literature, and plays. However, at the young age of 14, it was still a very difficult time for my mother and our family. All the money from the ferry farm was going to buy our food, clothing, and medicine, so there was just no extra money for buying books. Now, since borrowing books from others and talking with knowledgeable men would only take me so far, I reasoned that the only way to learn more about practical subjects was by reading other books. So I decided I would have to earn enough money to buy them, and that is what I did. At first, I did odd jobs at the age of 15 and soon made enough money to buy my first book purchase. I bought 3 books from my cousin Bailey for the combined price of 4 shillings. At age 16, I started earning more money by surveying, and I immediately bought more books. And I continued to buy books and pamphlets that I bound into books all of my life, and I used them to help me to become a better planter, general, and president. Early on, my older brother Lawrence and his father-in-law, Colonel Fairfax, noticed that I was bent to arms. Now, that means that they thought I would make a good military leader. They saw that I was tall and strong, was serious about learning, and that I thought deeply about what I was doing and about the welfare of other people. With their encouragement, I wanted to learn more about the military. One of the books I bought was about the life and adventures of Duke Friedrich Hermann von Schaumburg. He was a German officer who was so good at leading men in battle that at different times in his life he fought for the countries of France, Germany, Portugal, and England. By reading about his life and battles, I began to learn how to create a disciplined and an effective army. He taught the soldiers what to do, when to do it, and how to depend on each other to do what they were taught to do. When I was 22, I was appointed to be the commander of the Virginia Militia Regiment with some 1,000 men that fought in the French and Indian War. Years later, when I was 44, I was elected by Congress to lead the Continental Army with some 20,000 men over 8.5 years of the American Revolutionary War. Both times, I continued to read and study books about different ways to lead men in battle. After reading and learning so much from books, I knew that others could learn from them also. So, I sought to inspire the officers and the troops by having articles and portions of book read to them out loud. During the early days of the American Revolution in December 1776, when we were running from the British across New York and down New Jersey to the south side of the Delaware River, I ordered a pamphlet by Thomas Paine to be read to the troops. In his opening sentence of that first article, he stated that these are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will, in this crisis, shrink from the service of their country. But he that stands by it now deserves the love and the thanks of both man and woman. After hearing those words, the army responded bravely, and we went on to defeat both the Hessians at the Battle of Trenton the day after Christmas and the British troops at Princeton a week later. In both wars, I faced the frustrating task of changing independent, liberty-loving colonists that were farmers, fishermen, frontiersmen, or laborers into disciplined soldiers. Even their officers were untrained and as unfamiliar with basic military commands as their troops, and I urged them both to read military manuals. Interestingly enough, I learned later that one Hessian or German soldier was greatly surprised by the many military books he found in the captured bags of American officers, and he said, this was a true indication that the officers of this army studied the art of war while in camp.
The pursuit of reading and fostering friendships with men he admired helped George Washington gain the knowledge he would need to become an effective leader in Virginia and for the fledgling United States. If you have an area of interest that you're not learning about in school, George Washington would advise you to find books to read and seek out experts to learn from. Your life will be richer for it. Washington's older brother Lawrence was a strong influence in young George's life. Continue to the next edition of George Washington Speaks to learn how Lawrence helped George after their father died.